I18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me is absolutely no one right now. Absolutely no one is here with me right now. Omar Zini will be joining us a little bit later after he gets back from goalkeeper camp. But to fill that void, I think we've got someone that's halfway decent for all you guys to check out. We've got Benfica goalkeeper CJ Dos Santos. CJ, dude, big shoes to fill, dude. Omar Zini, I don't know if you can do it, man.
I mean, I've had a little bit of experience on my podcast, and I've done some interviews, so I think I can fill up. They're quite big shoes to fill, but I think I can fill them up pretty well.
I'm excited, man. I mean, dude, I know we've been DMing and stuff like that, and I've been watching your game basically since youth national team programs and everything like that. Obviously, you came through the whole Philly Union program for a little bit. You were at Delco before that, right? For some of our audience that might not be familiar with you and like how you ended up at Benfica and stuff like that, like, can you kind of sum up like how that all happened, the transition from DA to heading to Benfica instead of going to college and all that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Getting to talk about my passion, the goalkeeper position, with a fellow goalkeeper fanatic who has a huge passion for the position. I really appreciate it, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, dude, of course. Are you kidding me? It's our honor, dude. I mean, like, it's not every day that I think you're the first sleeveless guest we've had before. Like, and that's saying something. That's when you know that you've got someone that's a high level player, because they're not worried about showing off that physique right there. You know, if you get like a soccer journalist on, like, they're as like buttoned up as possible. Like, they don't want anyone to see that physique, you know?
I mean, I got a suit right over here. I can put that on for you guys if you want. But yeah, I mean, it was a hot day today out here in Lisbon, so really humid. So I actually had a normal t-shirt on, but it was just too humid in my room, so I had to put on the sleeveless Puma.
Yeah.
Puma top.
You got to rep the Puma though, right?
For sure. Shout out to Puma. But yeah, in terms of the union, in 2013, I was 12 going on 13. That was when I first started with the Philadelphia Union Academy. That was their first or second year in what is now called the Developmental Academy system. Yeah, they really taught me a lot on how to be a professional. You know, I had a great goalkeeper coach, BJ Callahan, who's now on the senior national team right now, who was a big influence on me, a big inspiration for me, going through very intense training sessions, very, very intense, but necessary because, as a young kid, you needed to learn how to get through, when you're tired, keeping the mentality high, and just keeping good reps, keeping good quality in the session, keeping good technique, even when you're exhausted, basically. So They really taught me a lot and gave me a great opportunity to show who I was as a player and as a goalkeeper, to excel and to evolve and to get to that next level, which I owe them a lot before how I arrived to Benfica. But the main reason why I arrived at Benfica and I had the opportunity was my dad, who actually got in contact with one of the goalkeeper coaches out here in Portugal. And he actually helped me through that whole system of, going from the Union to Benfica. He was the one that kind of set up the whole thing, set up the trial, set up the highlight reels on YouTube, really gets it all out there, helps me out with the social media and just keeping a good image for myself and really putting the best foot forward. So he's really not just on the media side, but also as a human being, as a man, and as a goalkeeper as well, because he was a goalkeeper and my original goalkeeper coach.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I mean, first off, like, it's so cool to have a dad who was a goalkeeper, but I'm guessing also it's one of those things is like, I've trained a lot of kids who like their dads were goalkeepers and played at a high level. The higher the level the goalkeeper, the more hands off that dad is with the actual training in regards to like when the goalkeeper coach is doing their work. Was it kind of the same with you?
He was always, a coach. He was a dad first, but he was always coach dad. He was always there. He was always a lot of long car rides home. It was never a quiet ride home after a bad game or a good game. It was always analyzing. He was a really big reason why I analyzed myself and analyzed the game and the position the way I do, because he would break down every nuance of the game, because he's very tactical in his head, not just as a goalkeeper, but as a coach in general.
Yeah.
Because he coached like my goalkeeper coach, but he was also the coach on the team. He coached for his school. He coached for many different players and teams in the Philadelphia area. But a lot of long car rides home, and he was the person that really put into my head to push on, and no matter what, just to keep pushing on. He made me cry during goalkeeper trainings. It was to that point, but it was necessary because the goalkeeper position is so difficult and it's so demanding psychologically, not just physically, but also psychologically and just your mentality as well. So
Yeah.
he taught me from an early age, from 6, 7 years old. But I was originally at number 10. I was a midfielder. But on the side, before and after games, before and after trainings, he would train me individually, and then he would go through those exercises with me. And he made me cry. So he pushed me really, really hard. And I just had to thank him. I know he's watching right now. But I think something that he'll never forget, when I signed my first contract with Benfica, right before I was about to finish signing, I turned over to him like, "Dad, thank you for making me cry all those times," because he really pushed me to the point where I am today. And not just as a man, or not just as a goalkeeper, but as a man as well, especially as a man.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate him.
I mean, dude, I think the craziest thing is like how I wonder what it's like for like the actual goalkeeper for like your U10 team who's like playing in the game, and then like he sees you like balling it out like on the sidelines. Like after I'm like, dude, that's not fair, dude. That dude, like, come on, like, what is there something that guy can't do? That's not fair. I can't go out there and do the number 10 role. Why is this guy able to do that? But dude, that's honestly one of the things that I think has helped you once you've gotten to Benfica and, been able to take your game to kind of that next level, is that like when you got there, obviously, and this is going to kind of segue into our topic here of defending the area behind the back line, is that you already had a semblance of an understanding of how to play possession. Even though you've said that once you got to Benfica, you were literally a shot stopper when you got there. You did not understand how to stay organized with your back line and how to actually play possession. Oh, hold on. We got a special guest joining us right here as we're hopping in right here. Let's see what's look at this dude.
There we go. I'm in. What's up, guys? So CJ.
Background. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you guys too. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, I finished up at camp, but where were we? Sorry, Mike.
No, it's all good. It's all good, dude. We were just talking about how the fact that like CJ was like a brilliant number 10 at like 10 years old, and he was like training goalkeeper on the sidelines, and how like his U10 keeper must have just been like, that's not fair, dude. That's not fair. This guy's clearly going to be the keeper in like a year.
Yeah, no, I think from what I've been hearing is that most teams will have a rotation of keepers. I think here in the States too, most coaches are allowing their players to play one half or, play a quarter of the game, and then they go out to the field. So building up the foot speed and the foot IQ.
Yeah, that's always important, because I would always play on the field in majority of the games. And if it was a big game, like a championship match, then I would go and goal,
Yeah. No, I mean, that I see right there is actually really, really good, because I think one of the things that we've really discussed on this show here is that you need to have played those positions to have empathy for those players, so you know what they're going through. So then that way, you know how to organize them. It's like, dude, I've been where you've been before. Like, it's not like I'm just some random dude off concept. It's going like, hey, slide right. Like, I've been in your position before, and that's why I know that you need to slide right like that. So let's kind of dig into like kind of this topic right here today, guys. Like, today's topic is defending the area kind of behind the back line. So CJ, for maybe some parents out there who are listening, or like younger goalkeepers that might not understand like this high level tactics that we're discussing, like what is in your mind the area directly behind the back line?
So the way that we like to break down the zones, there are 4 different zones in terms of the space and behind the back line. So we're basically a full unit. So it's not just 10, it's not just the back line and midfield and forwards. Like, we're all a unit. It's one team, it's one block going up and down. And the goalkeeper behind is also moving up and down. It's like a piece of the puzzle that kind of shifts up and down with the team. So that allows me to feel a part of the team, That means that I have to be active with my feet, with my head. I have to constantly track what's happening in the game. So the 4 zones of the zonal spacing. So you have zone 1, which is kind of on the 6-yard box, you know, a couple steps in front, a couple steps behind, more or less not quite a shot stopping zone, but, you know, kind of dividing both. So there can be a ball clipped in behind, a through ball in behind. So you're close enough to the action where you can reduce the space and go for a one-on-one, or you're close enough where one man beats the defender, and then you have to drop off and give yourself a little bit more time to react and make the footwork and to make the save. That's zone 1. Zone 2 is the space in between the 6-yard box and the penalty spot. Around that area, kind of dividing the space, few yards behind and few yards in front of the PK spot. So you're kind of dividing that space in there. Zone 3 is around the 18-yard box, you know, a little bit further up. Not quite a set piece on the other side, not quite an attacking opportunity on the other side of the pitch. Kind of more like a build-up space where the opposing team is kind of shifting forward, and you have to kind of go in between the back zones. The 4th zone, which is the final zone, is outside of the area. So that's when it's a corner kick on the other side, or when it's a 6-yard kick on the other side, and you really have to push forward and to really accompany the space in between the 18-yard box and the midfield line.
Dude, you're 19 years old. Are you kidding me? Like, straight up, dude, straight up. When I was 19 years old and playing in college, like, there's no way I could have eloquently have described all of that like there. I had no idea what any of that was. Like, do you realize how advanced? I mean, shout out to Benfica. I know it's a goalkeeping factory, and I know they develop the highest level goalkeepers, dude. But I mean, just the fact that you just were able to just break that down like that on the show at 19 years of age in front of Omar Zini, known as Pro GK Academy. I mean, that just shows just the level of intellect, goalkeeping IQ you got, dude.
I appreciate that. That.
Dude, I
I'm
mean,
just getting started. I can go on for another half hour if you guys want me to.
Oh, don't worry. We'll have you going. We got about 45 more minutes, so we'll keep you going for the 45.
No, Omar, I kind of want to bring that up with you right there, because this is something that's extremely, extremely important is breaking down those zones. And I love what you said in regards to it's a full unit, because I think a lot of times is that when goalkeeper coaches break down the zones, they act like they're individual areas as opposed to part of the entire play. And the great thing about you guys at Benfica, you know, and we'll let you get more into it, is that you, because you play a high line, you recognize it all as one area, even though you understand the differences in retreat into the different zones and the advancements into the other zones. Omar, I know you've had difficulties with this at the college level sometimes in regards to how coaches have wanted to play.
Yeah, no, I think building off what CJ said, I think with some young goalkeepers, they sometimes take that as an absolute, like, okay, the ball's coming into zone 1, that has to be yours. And then the ball doesn't go, and it's like falls in between zone 2 and zone 1. They have like this limitation in their mind of like, well, coach said zone 1 is my ball, so zone 2 and I'm not supposed to come and get. Where it's like, no, it's supposed to be a fluid motion where you're supposed to, you know, be able to break the barriers and go from zone 1, zone 2, and then if the ball pops out to zone 3, then you're also going to be, asked to cover that space as well. So I think again, it's just that fluid, I guess, whether Mike, you know, sometimes you say that the communication based on the age groups that we're speaking to, sometimes we have to use certain vocabulary that doesn't allow them to have limitations in their head. Where like we talked about with crosses sometimes, I told Mike that I like to use the word pause a lot. And he was like, well, ideally, maybe the word delay is a little bit more ideal for these young goalkeepers. So I was like, okay. So I started using delay, and I started seeing a lot more of my goalkeepers responding well to it. So I think with different zones, it's super important to first and foremost have the goalkeepers understand that it's not one and that's it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. You got to cover all 4. And then when it's in the 4th zone, you also have to be mentally engaged as well. So yeah, back to your point, Mike. I think, you know, there are certain coaches who like to play a certain style of play. And, you know, they don't like having the goalkeepers be too involved with their feet, because at Cal State LA, the school that I'm at, we're far superior than some teams. So having our goalkeeper have the ball at his feet sometimes, or trying to get pass backs from, you know, the corner of the 18, leaves a goal exposed, which gives the opposing team who's not as good as us the opportunity to maybe get a lucky goal and then sit back on us. So, I try to teach the basic concepts of that, and we always kind of revisit it in training sessions where, showing as an option or, playing in a higher line just in case that ball comes over the top. But again, it all kind of it all depends independent on who we play against in the scouting report. But I think in every session we try to at least throw some of those, I guess, plays and those pictures in for our goalkeepers, just so that they're always on the front foot and ready to pounce on those balls that come into, I guess, zone 2 or zone 3.
Yeah, no, dude, I think you brought up a really good point in regards to that right there. I think, CJ, one of the things I want to bring up with you is that when Omar was just saying in regards to how they play, and that, you have to recognize that you have to be able to cover all those different areas. One thing I've always been stressing is that just because you're playing behind the back line doesn't always necessarily mean that you're in a high position, right? It's all based on where your back line is, how deep you can play, right?
Yeah. It all depends on where the ball is, where the defensive line are, and the options that the man on the ball has. So depending on if the ball is covered or uncovered. If the ball is covered, it's more difficult to play that ball in behind. So you can kind of take a second break. I guess you could say you could kind of like lean back and just like take a look at the whole picture and kind of see what the options are. But when the ball is uncovered, when the center back has a space to reduce the space into the midfield space, then that's when you need to recognize that it's a lot easier for him to play a ball in behind. So when the ball is uncovered, naturally the back line would drop back because it's easier to play that ball in behind. Or we maintain the line, and I actually have to be more ready when that ball is uncovered. And it also helps to recognize what the forwards are doing, whether there's a running behind from the striker, from the 2 wingers, from the number 10 that's making a run in behind. So it all depends on those 3 factors, basically.
CJ, I got a question for you. Why does Benfica historically play a high line?
Because for decades, if not more than a century, they've been the superior team. Majority of the time, they have been a superior team from the academy up to the first team. So they want to score as many goals as possible. They want to press as high as possible. They want to win the ball back as quickly as possible. And they want to be as close to the opposing goal as much as possible during the game. So that means that on a quote-unquote inferior team, the back line will drop back basically right in front of the 18-yard box, and they'll close the middle. They will close, compact every bit of the way so they can't play through you. So they kind of wait, shift, close all the angles, and then they wait for us to make a mistake, and then they try to pounce on that, and they try to counterattack in behind. So that means that there are some games where we will be possessing the ball for a good 4 minutes straight, and then our center backs would be past the opposite semicircle of the midfield line. They would be that aggressive and that high up. So that means that I have to be just as high, just as aggressive, so I can pounce on a ball if there's a counterattack, if there's a quick ball in behind, because that's where we're susceptible at, are those balls in behind. So that means that I would have to be ready for that and, high enough so where I can anticipate that and I can really be in a good position to win that ball.
Yeah. Omar, I got a question for you. Because personally, I'm thinking, unless your team is playing this style and you're used to playing in a system like this, how difficult is it for a goalkeeper to start playing in a system like this when they've never been in it before, because those instincts aren't there?
I think it's definitely difficult, but I think if given the amount of time, through trial and error, and I think coaches give them the space and the patience to make those mistakes, I think over time they start getting more comfortable with their instinctual decisions, and then from there they're going to take higher lines. And I think, like you said, Mike, earlier about playing different positions and understanding what those positions look like. I've played center back in training sessions sometimes, and when I have the ball at my feet and I have no pressure, for sure, I'm taking my touches and I'm looking for that long ball over the top to dump it in. So whenever I've played against goalkeepers who, I guess, paint a picture for me like we do on crosses. Sometimes like you're probably not going to go out to the PK spot, but maybe setting a little higher can influence the server because they see, oh, CJ is on top of the 6. I should probably steer this ball away from him because I don't want a lollipop ball to the keeper. I don't want to be yelled at by the coach. So I'm going to probably try and steer it away. So as goalkeepers, can we influence the game without even necessarily being a part of it with our positioning? And I think the only way you can really get to that point of confidence, I guess, is to have that patience from the coaching staff to say, look, you're probably going to make a few mistakes as a young goalkeeper out there where you're cheating off your line and they might, just chip a ball over the top, or they may, chip a ball over the top and you may not get there. You may be a second late. Okay. You're going to make those mistakes. I get it, but let it be. Just like what Pep Guardiola does with Ederson. Ederson against, I think it was Bournemouth. He gave that pass to, I forgot who it was. They countered it right away. They chipped him from like half field. And every person in the comment section was like, Pep's probably telling Ederson that was exactly what he wanted him to do. He's probably yelling at the defender or the midfielder for not controlling that ball. So that's what I'm saying, though, is like giving the goalkeeper the confidence that that selection of play, that style of play is going to be warranted and it's going to be appreciated, even though there are going to be some times where you're going to make a mistake or two.
You brought up a really good point in regards to the starting position. And CJ, if you don't mind us indulging in some of your highlights right here, I want to bring up, and don't get too excited. It's not the most exciting highlight in the world. It's just a possession based, playing in a high line right here. But I want you to kind of break this down for the audience right here, because this shows basically your guys' basic shape and where, look how high he is right here. In this position right here.
That's what my coach on the under-23s at that time. This was in December 18th against Goalkeeper. I remember this game very, very well. So yeah, this game started off in this shape. So they were already dropped back. They had changed their tactics from the first time we played them. The first time we played them, they actually pressed us a little bit higher up on the field. But at home, when we play on campus, it's a lot easier for us because the pitch is bigger. The pitch is a lot more quality than their home pitch. So we can get away with this type of possession. So if you just look at where the 2 center backs are, look at where the 2 fullbacks are, look how deep where the number 9 is. So they always, in training, they actually tell me to be higher up. To be fair, I should be.
Wait, higher than this?
Yeah. Because if
what are you, center mid? Like
no. Let me just break this down. Because if you see the 2 center backs and the number 6, and if I'm right there, if I'm higher up, that creates a 4v2 situation, which then would have to drop back their 10, which creates a 3v2 in the midfield behind there. So if I play to the center back, he turns, he commits the forward. That's a 3v2, and he can play. Pause it right there.
Yep.
If he commits the center back, he can commit him. The number 8 pops off into the space right behind the striker. He's wide open, turns, plays the ball in behind to the striker, to the winger. He's away. If that's not open, if the opposite 8 or the 6 comes in and marks that man, he has the outside, and it's a 3v2 on the outside. So it's all about creating numbers, and I'm a part of that number. So in training, we play this game, but a lot tighter. So it's 4v2, and you just have to keep going up, commit them, wait for them to make that decision, and then play the ball that's open.
I noticed that you're trying to draw them in to open up that numbers up situation, basically. Yeah.
That's it.
Omar, anything you want to add to that?
I think the biggest thing too in situations like that is just having the patience and discipline to play what's on. I think too many times young goalkeepers get impatient because, it's like stagnant, or the coaches get impatient where the game plan's not working and they're saying, hey, find that entry pass or skip that pass. And it might not be.
Players are getting impatient and they're asking
exactly, yeah.
And that influences a goalkeeper as well. It's like, play. And then they have a man on their back and then like, no, I'm not going to play the ball there.
Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah, and that's where obviously you want to create imbalances, but at the same time, the whole team has to be on the same page. And Mike, we talked about this last time with playing out of the back. The whole team has to be on the same page. You can't have half the team showing and then strikers staying up in the other half of the field, not trying to connect and create those passing lanes. So I think again, it's super important from the start to the start of the game that. I'll bring this up with you, CJ. I'm sure. I had a teammate of mine who was my left back. He told me the first 10 minutes of every game, he never wanted to see the ball. He never wanted me to roll the ball to him because he was so nervous. This is like we're 13 to 17 years old, so never wanted to get the ball. So I always played out of the right channel the first half. And then obviously, again, that created an imbalance where like, hey, the scouting report's showing everything going down the right. And then all of a sudden, the 15th minute, we'd go down the left. And everybody knows that now because our whole team was like, yeah, Joe doesn't want the ball the first 10, 15 minutes. We're going to go down that side later on in the game. But again, creating those imbalances, but having the team on the same page is just as important.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's such a good point right there. And I think, a lot of that has to do with the fact is like, dude, CJ, I love what you said about like, players get impatient and they have to recognize that like you can scan the field so much better than they can.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a passive position where you're not actually involved in the actual play at the moment. And you brought up such a really, really good point that I really want to stress with you and talk to you about is the fact that the off the ball movement of the goalkeeper and how you move with your line determines and dictates how the other team is going to play against your team, right? So kind of elaborate on that.
Are you talking offensively or defensively? When we have the ball,
I'm talking about defensively, because I think this is another thing that's also not brought up enough. And we talked about this, I know, yesterday a little bit over DM is like so many people focus on high line possession play, but they don't focus on when we lose the ball. How and what's the first thing that a youth player does when they lose the ball? They run backwards, right? They just run backwards, right? They're Omar Zini at 10 years old running back, hoping that he can get a punch on that ball, sailing over him, right? Yeah.
So you want me to elaborate or do you?
Yeah. Do it, dude.
So there are two sides of the coin. So one side is offensively, playing how that clip was entailed when you don't have the pressure, kind of take the ball up, take the space and kind of wait for the midfielders to create that space, and you can make that decision based on the forwards. And on the other side of that coin is defensively when we do lose the ball. So Johan Cruyff said it perfectly in the Ajax system when he was growing up and when he was a coach. They want to win the ball as quickly as possible. When you lose the ball, 5 seconds, get the ball as quickly as possible so then we can regain possession and go after goals. It's the same dynamic that we try to encourage with all the players and with the exercises. So when I'm involved, which I am all the 90-plus minutes of the game, when we're in the defensive side of things, when we lose the ball, it's almost that you kind of have to re-engage and kind of read quickly and kind of see what the options are. If their back is to me, if they're facing me, if they have pressure on, if they don't have pressure on. There are a few factors I have to take into account in a couple seconds when we do lose that ball. So I think it's always important to take that first step forward. Even if it's just like a little step forward, half a step just to like lean forward and kind of get re-engaged into the defensive shape. Sorry, there's taking out the trash.
I was wondering what that sound was. I was like, wait. I was like, that a fan? What is that exactly?
Supposedly they want to take out the recycling at 9:30 at night. Anyways, it's almost what was I saying? It's almost like you want to get onto the front foot, not being on the back heels, kind of getting up on your toes and just being ready to really take that step forward and to make an explosive run forward if you need to. And it's always easy to go back. You can always go back. That's the easiest part of the game. You can always take a step back. You can go 5 steps back. You can go all the way back to your line if you need to. But the hardest thing is always reading the game and then taking those steps forward.
Dude, yeah. Go ahead, Omar.
No. What I like just hearing you talk, CJ, I think the best thing is, when a coach or a style of play is understandable and it makes sense and it's digestible for the players. And it looks like to me, even when Mike was saying, why would they tell you to start higher? You're like, well, because we're going to create a 4v2 situation. So your understanding of why you're doing something is just as important as you doing it. And I think a lot of young kids out there, again, they're being told, hey, we want to play like Barcelona. We want to play like Benfica. We want to play very, very, possession style of play. But a lot of the kids don't understand the perks and the benefits. And a lot of coaches don't know how to teach that. They don't know how to say, hey, we're going to try to create an imbalance so that if this person's not on, then that channel's on. You know what I mean? So like bringing the 8 in so that the channel in behind is open for our 10 over here. So it's like understanding, I think the coaching aspect is just as important as the players, digesting it and comprehending it. And it seems like they're doing a good job over there.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job.
I
And
mean,
that's
dude,
one of the things. The under-19 coach, he's on the B team coach right now, not Baiva. Pep Guardiola-like, and he's always encouraging, be a part of the team, take those steps forward, and if you mess up, keep trying. It's okay. Just, this is the way that I want to. He always says, this is the way that I want to play, and we're gonna play the style that I want. I don't care if we concede 4 goals as long as we make 5 or 6. We always want to take those steps forward and not to be on the back foot, and always to take those steps forward.
Absolutely.
Sorry, cut you off.
No. I want to bring this up right here. I want to bring up this play right here, CJ, with you, because this is a play where it's kind of that, like, the confidence that you need in order to stay in that high position and still have that retreat, but understand like when to like how far to retreat and how far not to retreat. Because Jason Longrod brought up a thing right here, and he wants to us to kind of get into like what session designs you would do in order to kind of work on dealing with the through balls right here. So I'm going to play this clip right here real quick. And if you can kind of break this down for us right here. Basically what happens here, I'll play that first. So here's that through ball coming in. You're still staying in that high position right here, right?
Yeah. I recognize this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So as that ball's coming in, obviously you stayed in that high position. You didn't retreat. Instead, you attacked. You came and put immediate pressure on the ball. And first off, I don't think that's a yellow card. I think that's a trash call. I don't think that was a yellow card for you. I think it was clean right there. But you did your thing, and that guy, I think he's exaggerating a little bit right there, but that's just me. So let's kind of break this down starting from the very beginning, a portion of it right here. So ball comes in. I'm going to freeze it right here.
So
okay.
The ball is uncovered, so we immediately drop off. And my initial reaction was to drop off as well, which if you rewind a little bit, you can see that I'm already inside the box and I should be a little bit higher off my line. Or I immediately dropped off and I'm not as high as I should be.
Okay.
And I just misread the through ball. I mean, that's the type of play that I want to be, but it's outside of where I can make a play. And I didn't realize that my right center back is pacey, so he could have gotten that regardless. And, and my right back could have gone inside and to cover his space. But I tried to make a play. Unfortunately, it's a bit outside of my reach. So, yeah, I kind of just misread the whole situation. I could have been a little bit higher up. It's a bit outside of my reach, outside of the box. I kind of want to maintain a little bit of my range inside the penalty area. Yeah, but in my opinion, I think it was a foul. I think it was.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm
gonna
glad.
be fair on this one.
I will say this, dude. I love the humility in you right there, and willing to admit to it that, like, maybe I should have been in a higher position so that this didn't happen, and I should have trusted my back to get to that ball. But once you called for it, you had to go because he was going to drop.
By this point, I had to go with everything. And my center back actually told me, like, yeah, I could have gotten to that one. It's like, yeah, my fault. Because I tried to make a play out of it, and by this point, I just had to go with everything and just hope for the best, Yeah. It's just one of those plays.
Now, Omar, if CJ was one of your keepers, how would you break this down, and what coaching pointers would you give him right here? Let's see what you can do.
No. I think, again, the first question I probably would have asked is just like, what were you thinking in that play? And kind of break it down for me and take me through what you were thinking. And CJ just did that for me. So I think, hearing what he had to say, I think, again, his thought process is like very accurate to their style of play, where it's like, yeah, it's probably a ball I probably could have just held off on. But at the same time, too, we talk about trial and error and being patient with our goalkeepers. And I'd be a hypocrite if I said that I, wasn't. If I came to CJ and said, hey, what are you doing there? Like, we don't want you to do that. Or you made the wrong decision. We're going to sit you. Or, I don't want to reprimand somebody for going off their instinct, because the last thing you want to do is criticize somebody for that. And the next time they're out there, it may be a ball they need to come for, but oh, shoot, Coach Omar told me not to come for this. And if I did again, then I'd probably be on the bench. So, again, the last thing you want to do is, as a coach, you need to be consistent. So my style of play and the way I like to play was with freedom and just allowed myself to just free flow. And the last thing, and Mike, you've told me this again, is like when some of my sessions, I kind of stop things too much on the first rep instead of maybe stopping it on the 6th rep. where some goalkeepers on the first 2 or 3, they're just finding their rhythm. So watching this footage, I'd say, hey, what could you do? What could you have done better? Okay, great. No worries. Next practice, I'll probably paint a few pictures for you, and we can try and, dial that in and make sure you, create the proper, I guess, decision-making in those, quick decision moments. But I wouldn't be upset with them. I said, look, you went off your instinct. We didn't get it. They didn't score. But maybe next time, maybe you start a little bit higher. You start, you track the play a little bit more. So you're actually on that side where that ball may be coming from. So you have a better starting position. So that's what I would say. Is trying to be consistent as a coach so that you're not, yelling at him for not doing it. And then when he doesn't do it, you're yelling at him, why didn't you do it?
The reason I wanted to bring up that clip right there, and CJ, thank you for being open about it too. I was a little worried that you were going to be like, oh, dude, why are you playing this one where I got like a card and everything like that?
No, it's okay. I've watched that clip quite a few times, actually, with my goalkeeper coach and individually. So I've had some time to break it down a little bit.
But because I wanted all the young goalkeepers out there to see how they allow you at Benfica to take those types of risks and learn from those mistakes. That's the whole reason there's a 19s team and a 23s team and all of that, is because they want you to be put in those scenarios in high level competition so that when you do get to the first team, you're able to handle it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. So by that, from the under 12s up to the first team, we all have a similar type of style of play. So it's always encouraged from the bottom to the top. So we try to keep the same system from every age group. So it's really important to have that type of consistency from all levels, from the coordinators at the top to the under 9s at the coaching staff is at the bottom of the academy system. So yeah, it's really important to have those.
Yeah, Mike.
Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think, again, it's something I harp on a lot for young goalkeepers. And, young kids ask me, hey, what could I do better and what could I improve on? It's like, well, when you're sending me your clips on Instagram and you're not being self-critical about your own clips, that's kind of alarming to me. Like, I really do want young goalkeepers, even watching CJ's clip right there, maybe the next time I step on the field, I kind of am in that same situation where CJ just mentioned maybe he could have started a little bit, more to the right, or he could have tracked the play a little bit better. Maybe in my head, as that same play is developing, I'm cheating a little bit more to my right because, like, okay, that ball's coming on the left channel or the right channel in this case, and maybe I should probably cheat a little bit more, or at least have my legs in a position where if that ball does come, I have a straight path to it versus being completely square and then having to open my hip and then come across. So now I'm processing things that I wasn't even a part of, so that the next play that I do see and it does play out the same way, I have a leg up, or I guess I've already seen the play in my head before that I can come and collect. Or maybe my positioning was good, but that was a ball that kind of died because the grass was in water before the game. The ball slowed down, and maybe I can retreat to my goal. But at least I'm giving myself options with my initial starting point.
Yeah. I want to talk about this with you, CJ, is that, obviously you grew up in the U.S. system before you went over to Benfica. Was that type of vertical integration from like 10 years old all the way up to the first team, was that really foreign to you? And was it kind of like playing catch up a little bit?
So in terms of what, my transition here at Benfica?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know that you played at Delco and then you played at Union DA for a little bit, right? Before you came over. So you never really had like a system where like you came through an academy all the way up and then you kind of moved into a youth academy at the higher ages when a lot of those kids had already been there at like 10, 11 years old. And so like that first year kind of like, I don't want to say a struggle, but a transitional phase for you where like coaches had to be a little bit more patient with you. And like what I'm basically trying to get to is like for a lot of young goalkeeper coaches out there is to like be patient with players that come into a new environment.
Nah, it was a struggle. Nah, I'm gonna be honest. It was a struggle trying to make that transition from the U.S. to Portugal. It was a struggle to keep a high quality and to keep a high standard for myself so I can keep up with the people around me and with the coaching staff and with the players around me, because these are the top talented players in not just in Portugal but in Europe and the world. So just trying to compete with them on a daily basis was a struggle. That first year was really difficult, not just with the transition from being away from home, but from a personal life it was a struggle. But in terms of football, it was an adapting period. That first year was, I didn't play a lot. I trained a lot. I trained twice twice a day, morning with the under 19s, afternoon with the 17s, and I would go to and they had me on a gym program almost every day, 5 times a week. So it was a strenuous grind, but that first year I had to be patient with myself, and the coaching staff had to be patient with me as well. Because the first year is always the most difficult. But once I got into the second year, I had a little bit more experience. Just had to continue taking those steps forward. And by year 3, that's when my confidence started to grow a lot. That's when I got consistent games, and that's when I was really feeling good about how I was performing as a player. So that first year was very, very difficult.
One of the reasons I bring that up is because Omar, are we allowed to introduce this yet? The upcoming program, the coaches program, or
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Omar's got this mentoring program that he's got for players going on right now, but now he's got one going on for coaches. And I think one thing to hear your side of that story right there, CJ, I think kind of ties into the thing that Omar's trying to do in which case, coaches a lot of times need to understand where players are coming from. And that's so much of coaching as well, too. And I think one of the reasons why you guys do such a great job over at Benfica with people like yourself is because they allow you that opportunity to grow before making a decision or writing anybody off, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, based on the psychology of a player, getting the confidence from the coaching staff and from the players around you is super, super important. That's what really helped me, and what I tried to do with new players coming into the program as well. Just giving them the benefit of the doubt and giving them time to adjust and to, take one step back to take 2 steps forward, I guess. Yeah. So it's really important to give that type of patience.
I mean, that's awesome that you as yourself personally, give that back to the younger guys and everything like that. Like I know, one thing that you had mentioned, and then we'll get back to the topic, but I just think this is fascinating right here, is that, you looked up to Oblak and Ederson for 2 different, very, very different reasons, 2 very different goalkeepers, obviously, who had come through systems like that. How important has that been for somebody like yourself on the 23s or when you were playing with the 19s to, take a kid who's like 14 or 12 or whatever and be like, hey man, I remember what it was like to be in your position and, understand that we're all here for you too.
So it's not necessarily with the younger guys because we're not in the same schedule. So they train in the afternoon and we train in the morning. So I don't really get to see them as often. But I try to help the foreign players that come from, from Poland, that comes from France. My old roommate was from France, player from, where was he from? Croatia, Hungary, just players from all over Europe. And we're all in the same group. We're all in the same situation here where we kind of need to be there for each other and kind of help each other out. And just trying to, make a joke, and we all speak English, in a foreign country where we all don't speak the same language, but we all speak English, some more than others, but we all try to stick together and try to help, really help each other out in that aspect.
Yeah. I want to move back into the topic right here because, one of the things that we've been discussing with a lot of people here is in order to defend an area properly at every high-level pro that we've been talking to, it's all about the anticipation. It's not over-anticipating, but it's about the anticipation. And, one thing that Saskia always really stresses is that, like, if you're organizing in the middle of the play, then you're too late already. How important is that organization off the ball to defending that area for you?
It kind of makes my job a lot easier. So if we have the ball in the attacking third and we're about to have a goal scoring opportunity, it actually makes my job a lot easier to have my center back shift in, have the opposite fullback to shift in as well, just so if there's one striker back, making sure that there are 2 back always, to one in front, one in back, or one side by side, just so we have the numbers up. If there are 2 back, making sure that the opposite fullback comes inside, just so we have the numbers and that we have the advantage on a counterattack. And it makes my job easier to read the play and to know that we have that number advantage going backwards. But sometimes things happen and, one player gets drawn out and then they play a ball in behind. So it's always about being a couple steps ahead of the play and just being able to read what could happen and just being prepared for the worst, basically.
Yeah. Omar, as a goalkeeper coach, can we train this in isolation, or is this something that you have to do with the team?
I think it's a language that you build within the team. I think as a goalkeeper, obviously you said like split second. Oh, did I freeze?
You froze for a second, but you're back. You're back, dude. You're making these faces.
Yeah, no, I'll try to keep it cute so that if it does freeze, it's on a cute face. But no, I think it's developing that language within the back four and the goalkeeper, maybe even the back six, where you can use quick and concise. What's your point? The quick and concise and direct, or
clear, concise, and CCD, clear, concise, direct.
CCD, clear, concise, and direct communication, where it is that preventative communication, so that you can say something that's happening as it's happening, or maybe slightly before as you're seeing it, but using words and phrases that the player can easily refer to and understand what's happening behind them without having to look. I think that's our job, is to make the jobs easier for our center backs, anybody who can't see what we're seeing. And I think it's not done in isolation, but I think maybe off the field or during sessions where you guys are playing those live games and the communication may not be as clear and concise and direct as the goalkeeper and the center back want to hear. So making sure we have those trigger words that, I mean, for me, it was always like, shoulder, left shoulder, right away. The guy knew exactly where the runners are coming from. And we'd watch it on film and I'd said, hey, Ramon, who was our center back, I said, Ramon, look, when I say left shoulder, I mean that the guy's running in behind the center back. He's our left center back. I said he's running in behind our right center back and you. So I mean left shoulder, meaning that's where the channel that he's running towards. So he's like, oh, okay, I did not know what that meant. So now instead of turning his head to the right, he's obviously turning his head to the left. So now he's not, turning his shoulders the opposite way. He's going in the gradual progression with the rhythm of his body. So he doesn't have to waste that movement. And something as small as that can save you from him, making an emergency slide tackle for a red card, or him actually, shielding the ball out, getting the forward on his back, or playing me. So it's just those little trigger words that you can try and hopefully create in sessions. At the same time, too, though, there are those trial and error periods where the center back and the goalkeeper, they need to build their chemistry. And once they've built their chemistry, that's when you can have a little bit more consistency.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you brought up a really good point there in regards to, like, you need to make sure that everyone understands what you are talking about. CJ, I don't know if you've ever had this situation before or seen it with younger goalkeepers, but they'll get frustrated because they're like, dude, that's not what I wanted. But they never had that conversation with that outside back on like what that means, right? Mm-hmm. So like, do you guys at Benfica, do you guys have like specific wording that's kind of the Benfica system? Like this is how you say things, or is it like in all individual between you guys?
For starters, in terms of kind of translating from English to Portuguese, I kind of had to find the sweet spot where it kind of made sense to them and where it didn't get lost in translation. So what I used to do, like when there was a friendly match or a game in general, I would just watch my goalkeeper, the older goalkeeper that I was training with, and I would just listen to him. And that's how I learned the language basically on the pitch. And that's how I learned what can I say in order to, make a good situation happen instead of a negative situation happening based on miscommunication or bad communication or lack thereof. So I think everybody understands what I'm saying, and everybody understands that, before a game happens, like, all right, what are some key words that you want us to say? Is like, guy on your back, guy left, guy right, little quick notes, like when the ball is out of play, is like, all right, just be aware of on the counter attack, make sure that one's in front, one's in behind, just so that we're all on the same page. So the worst part is for me was just the translation.
Yeah. Well, no, I figured, and that's why I'm figuring probably, and I always tell kids this is like, learn hand gestures, because hand gestures are universal. And it's always so funny when I'm talking like an 8 or 9 year old, they're like, yeah, because when I play for Juventus one day, I'm like, exactly. When you play for Juventus one day, that's going to be the least of it. That's going to be the least of your concerns. By the way, we just had a comment right here that says CJ is an intellectual goalkeeper more than a shot stopper, 100. So, and I'm not going to say whose last name that is right there.
I already know who that was. I can already tell by the emoji at the end. I already know who that was.
We have a question right here from Stan Anderson. Shout out to Stan Anderson, Camp Shutout. Thank you for this lovely jersey right here. And he goes, regarding communication, how important is changing your inflection to express one situation more urgent than another?
I think it's just the projection of the voice. You know, when we have the ball and it's kind of just like advice, like, all right, just step forward, guy left shoulder, guy right shoulder. But if it's something urgent, kind of projecting your voice and, you know, emphasizing the urgency and really, and even if you have to, no offense, but some guys work better with negative reinforcement, and like a little curse word here and there would, you know, a little sprinkled in the statement wouldn't hurt.
Just a little sprinkle.
Yeah, just a little sprinkle, you know. But yeah, just enough urgency in the voice and really getting the booming voice and, you know, really making sure, like, even if you have to say them by name, usually it's by name, because if you get the first and middle name in there, then they kind of freeze in there. So you get the first and last name in there as well. They kind of freeze in there. So it's just about, you know, booming.
It's like you're a mom, first and last name.
Yeah. There's a great clip of Joe Hart when he was at Man City back in 2015, where he would yell out Mangala's voice and expletive at the end as well. So it's all about being urgent and, you know, saying names and, you know, saying whatever you need to get inside of their head, basically.
Yeah. No, I would definitely agree with that. I think also too, I mean, I've had players who would, you know, tell me off the field, like, hey, look, you're embarrassing me by yelling at me. My girlfriend, my friends are in the stands. Like, keep it more low key, bro. Yeah. I'm like, look, no, but I'm like, no, I felt it. I'm like, bro, if this is going to hinder you and distract you from being from actually being the best version of yourself, like you said, sprinkling a negative, some negative reinforcement here and there is also good for the personality and the person you're dealing with. But some people, yeah, you know, everyone has their way of they like to be spoken to a certain way. That's why coaches, you know, you should be very skillful in the way that you approach every goalkeeper. Obviously, the group, you talk to everybody the same way, you know, respect factor and making sure everyone's coming, you know, with discipline and coming to work to better themselves and better the group. But at the same time, there's so many personalities that are different within the group that you have to attend to. And I think that's also a skill set as a goalkeeper and a goalkeeper coach, is finding the right way to vocalize and verbalize those coaching points. But at the same time, too, making sure that, like you said, certain people like things said a certain way, and to get the best out of them so it's not going out one year out the other. That's the way we have to approach it. And that's one thing my coach at Cal State LA, you know, is a really good coach and a mentor to me. He mentioned, like, you need to have in your back pocket, you need to be able to resort to what's the word we're looking for as a coach? You need to be able to resort to a different change of
communication.
Voice.
You need to be able to be specific and clear and concise.
Yes, but no, like you need to be able to, like, hold on to that extra voice. You're not always shouting and always trying to preach to everybody. You need to have that voice in your back pocket so that if, you know, the kids are slacking off or your defenders aren't having a good game, when that voice comes out, your team knows, oh crap, he's serious. Because I've seen young goalkeepers who use that voice 24/7 and consistently use it and harp on it. And their players are just like, dude, shut up. Like, we're not going to listen to you anymore. And when you actually have a good point, they're going to be completely disregarding you. It's the boy who cried wolf. You know what I mean? You're constantly saying the same things over and over and over. And those situations don't warrant it. But when the situation warrants it, and then you use that, you know, that terminology or verbiage, people are like, no, we're not having that anymore. There needs to be a consistency. There needs to be a good ebb and flow. So that's what, to everyone's point, I think, again, understanding who you're dealing with first and foremost. And once you understand that, then you can have the ability to effectively communicate with your players.
I think that was one of the biggest adjustments for me, because I was somebody, because of my size, that I would try to so here, when I tried to play pro, right? Like, I thought, like when I first tried to play pro, that I had to present myself in a certain, you know, certain motif or arrogance or demeanor or whatever. And so I was trying to come off as like this big, like, well, not as big as I could get, presence out there. And like, I'm blah, 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 blah. And like, literally somebody just turned to me. He's like, hey dude, he's like, the reason, the fact that you are acting like that makes me believe that you think this is an urgent situation. And if you think this is an urgent situation at this level, you're not going to be able to play at this level. And that scared me, because I was like, oh, oh my God, they're like, yeah, dude, they're like, we can handle this. Like, if you don't think we can handle this, then you can't play at this level. And it totally made me completely change how I dictated and how I communicated. First off, it put me in my place. And I also recognized that, you had to be true to yourself. And second of all, it made me recognize, just like what Omar was saying about the boy who cried wolf, is that you have to recognize, how urgent is this scenario really? Like, because if you don't have the trust in your players to get out of certain situations, then they're not going to have trust. They're not going to have trust in you. CJ, is that something that you've kind of seen in your career too?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually comment on that thing. Like, try to act like arrogant. Like, I would go into a first team training session and try to, be a presence, but it's kind of hard to be a presence when you're playing with Champions League type players on your side. So I think it's all about staying true to who you are and not trying to change for the people around you. Having that inner swag just inside of you that you can't really manufacture, just being true to yourself and, just doing you and not changing what you've been doing. Because if you try to focus on something that you need to change within yourself, then you're gonna be more focused on that than the task at hand.
I just thought that if I was loud, they would think I was 6'5". Like, they would just be like, oh, well, clearly this guy's very big. And then they'd turn around and they'd look at me and they'd be like, dude, I'm pretty sure that's coming from like a voiceover or something like that. There's no way that.
No, I agree with that. Trying to go in and communicate and be like, oh, this academy kid's really aggressive. But I just tried to be a presence and,
Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think again, even for myself, growing up, I was very, social. I always like to talk, and sometimes I would talk a little too much and, make the jokes that didn't need to be made. And as I've gotten older, I've realized, as I'm sitting at tables and having conversations with people who are like yourself and who are high up in the game, quality over quantity is the most important thing. What you say, it's not about how much you say, it's what you say, and the impact and substance that those words have means so much more. And I feel like, again, I use the Twitter method whenever I play in goal nowadays, is like, when you tweet something, you only have a certain amount of characters. So you weed out all the BS, you weed out all the stuff that doesn't need to be in there, and you get straight to the point. And I use that Twitter method to my young kids. I say, look, when you tweet something, it's got to be short, concise, and it has to be a very, very substance-oriented post. And if you don't want that, then, you're going to deal with people who don't, who aren't going to respond to you, and you're going to have to be okay with that. But if you really want to get someone's ear and have someone really respect what you say, the quality and substance in what you say needs to be obviously direct, but at the same time too, it needs to be short, concise, and direct, as Mike always says.
No, but that's why Omar spends more time on Instagram than Twitter.
Because I have more to say. I have more to say than under 40 characters.
I want to pull up this clip right now, CJ, with you, because we've been talking about how the Benfica system, and like what it basically invites other teams to do, what you're trying to get them to do. So I kind of want to talk about like what the goalkeeper's responsibilities are in these types of situations. So I want to pull up this clip right here, and I'm going to play it real quick for everyone to kind of see where it comes from. So ball comes into around the top of the 18. You're called into play. And you've got to be clear, and you've got to be also relaxed in that situation, which a lot of goalkeepers would freak out in that situation. But look how relaxed you are in a simple position where you're basically just trying to live another day, right? You're basically trying to redirect the ball so that there's no shot on angle, right?
Yeah. In that situation, it was just a lack of communication where I was still focusing on the flight of the ball and the trajectory of the ball and what type of distribution I needed to do, whether that be a one touch out, whether I receive it, but it was just a matter of, still trying to read the flight of the ball and not communicating. In hindsight, afterwards, I said to myself, maybe I just like be an option for my center back and just try to back off and create an option for him, and then we play out, and then I just get the ball out.
So these are some of the problems basically that you're going to run into trying to play this way. So Omar, how do you coach this?
Again, like I said earlier, you got to give them the freedom to adjust. And again, watching the film is super important to get those mental reps. And like CJ just said, he probably could have done something differently. And again, when you have someone who's breaking down their own film and giving responses like that, me as a coach, I just step back and go, hey, I'm going to give you guidance. And if it happens again, it happens again. But I'm going to continue to give you guidance and let you be you. If we have a goalkeeper who can problem solve and solve their own issues, what am I mean, of course, if there's like a glaring issue, I have to step in, but who am I to, try and change their perspective on that situation? Let them figure it out. And when we step into a game, let them figure it out. But then for me as a coach, my job is to create a session plan now to create those those same pictures so that we can really try and fine tune the coaching points that CJ just made on himself.
By the way, now in order to go ahead, CJ. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it also depends on the player to make that adjustment because what's the saying? Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
So it's also based on the player trying to make that adjustment. And my dad always used to say, make a mental recording of it, store it away, and make sure it doesn't happen again. And many times in training and in games, other games similar to that ball, I would just drop off and create an option. There was a ball like that. What was that? Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Basically the same exact ball. And I dropped off and I received the ball and then we played out of it. So it's just about making that adjustment and really understanding what you need in certain situations.
Now we got to showcase CJ in his finest right here. So here comes his play. We love this one. Oh, look at that top hand save. Brilliant coming across like that.
I remember so I looked kind of pissed. First of all, I remember hearing the ball boy behind the goal was like, holy, what a save in Portuguese. But the reason why I looked,
that dude right there?
Yeah, the kid right behind the goal. He said, what a save. I looked pissed off in this moment because for some reason I felt that it was an easier ball than it was. I don't know why I thought it felt like an easy save. Not to sound arrogant. I don't mean to sound arrogant, but like I kind of exaggerated the save a little bit. I felt like I exaggerated the save a little bit. It's like, dang, I could have done something different with that ball. But looking back, like, wow, I was surprised it was to that point.
Dude, the footwork was great there. The extension. Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think even at the baseline core foundation of that save is the exact same thing we've been talking about. Is as a goalkeeper, you got to stay locked into the game, and then you're reading different patterns. When that ball gets played in like that, the guy's getting on his favorite right foot. You have a defender who's blocking the near post in the center of the goal. Most likely, if that guy's shooting the ball, he's going to curl his body and shape his body in a way where that top hand save is going to be an option. And I like that approach by you. Is that kind of, oh God, am I frozen again?
No, you're back, dude. You're
okay,
back.
Okay. No, but so that's what I mean. It's just the foundation of you're always being locked into the game and reading the play and reading the patterns, just like you would for a ball over the top. Same exact here with that guy shaping up to curl that to the top post. And I know someone of your standards, CJ, and playing at a club like you are, I think, again, like you said, it's at a good height where maybe you could have held on to that, or maybe you could have just shifted your feet and caught it. And I think that standard for yourself is key and huge. And I think it's going to keep you obviously moving in the right direction as you progress in your career.
Dude, honestly, it's one of those things. It's like I've noticed is every high level goalkeeper we've had on this show, whenever we've played any of their clips, they've never been satisfied. They've always said, you know what? I remember this movement. Here's an adjustment I could have made. Here's a song. And I think that's honestly, CJ, what keeps you. That's how you end up making, because you said how difficult it was that first year at Benfica, but that's how, yeah, exactly, man. I mean, when you look up to guys like an Anderson or an Oblak and everything like that, you've got to lead by example. If you want to get to that level, like you've got to lead by example. What do they expect out of themselves, at that level? And you got to hold to yourself to kind of that standard. I still thought it was an amazing save. So
Thank you.
I had to show it. Let's talk about possession play when playing high. Here's one thing that I've noticed with a lot of young goalkeepers, CJ, and I don't know if you've noticed the same thing or Omar, is that so many goalkeepers think that playing a high line is all about playing possession. And CJ, how often are they just like, play it back to me, blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, you don't need the ball at your feet in order to make a difference playing high, right?
Statistics show that 10 out of 10 players will scream for the ball when you have possession of it. And they're right in your face. They will yell, play. And then it's like, that's just not the best option we need right now.
Yeah. So it's like, it's one of those things. So how do we as goalkeepers kind of explain that and kind of be like, hey, you need to widen right here. You need to pinch in right here in order for you to give me options. Or a lot of times is like do you just kind of need to block all that out and just kind of be kind of in your own, I don't want to say in your own world because you want to be present and everything like that, but kind of have blinders on to what they're saying and scan the field and make your decisions based on what you're seeing rather than being influenced by others?
So it's kind of like the quarterback position in American football. It's based on you're able to read the coverages, you're able to read the defense, you're able to read where your players are. And you have possession, like you dictate the play in where you can play the ball. So it's always your decision. And you have the right to make whatever decision you make. And if I make a bad decision, hey, that's on me. That's my loss. But it has to be based on yourself. And for example, in my case, my decision where I have to make. So it's just about dictating pace and what we need in that situation. If we need to calm things down, if it's 80th minute and then we just got off of a bad transition and we need to calm the game down, I need to take it upon myself to make that decision on behalf of the team and to slow things down. If there's not enough energy, then I need to accelerate the game, but ultimately I'm the one making those decisions.
See, I'm really glad you brought that up because last week when we had an episode on possession, you know, Caitlin Sheridan from Sky Blue and Canadian national team, you know, she brought up the fact is like, as a coach, you need to have that trust in your goalkeeper. And if that goalkeeper's turning to the sidelines looking for direction, they're going to be lost because now you don't have someone problem solving on your own, Omar. And I know that's something you've been trying to build in goalkeepers so much this summer is don't look for me for the answers, figure it out yourself.
Yeah, I think it's been such a long-standing thing, and as a young coach as well, I was always trying to prove myself and show the young goalkeepers that I obviously knew what I was talking about. I'm knowledgeable about the position, but I think that's a hindrance to them. It's not allowing them to think freely and think for themselves. And even when I break down film my goalkeepers, I'll obviously break it down, I'll break down the clips, send it to them, and I say, hey, tell me what you saw. So at the very least now they're getting that, not force-fed, but they get the opportunity to look at something and they're giving me their response. And I think, like you told me, Mike, it's just about those repetitions. And as it's our job as coaches to give that forum and allow that platform for our young goalkeepers to get those mental reps. And like CJ was saying about his dad saying the mental recordings and keep, stored in the back of your head, you're never going to get those mental reps until you watch your own film or you watch someone else's film. And unfortunately, my goal,
dude, now you've frozen up.
My goal now is to create. Okay, but my goal is to show them the value of how important that is, and once that value is seen, I'm hoping to God that these kids do it for themselves, and then from there pass it on to young goalkeepers that they end up training with or they mentor in the future as coaches.
Yeah, how much easier is it for you, CJ, as a goalkeeper to play confidently when you have the freedom and you're not feeling like you're being micromanaged by the coach?
It makes things a lot easier because it gives me the freedom to make mistakes, and I know that's going to happen. I've actually been told by the coach, and he was just like, yeah, this is the way I want to play. If you make a mistake, that's on me. I have to explain that to my superiors, and I have to explain that to the media because this is the way that I want to play. And if you make a mistake, that's on me because I'm the coach, and this is how I want you, and that's how I'm encouraging you to play. So that's all. If the coach is encouraging me to make mistakes, then that gives me the confidence to play that he wants to play, and that shows me that he trusts me and my ability to play the way that he wants to play.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a good point. And willing, as long as the coach, and the fact is that the coach is not deflecting it onto you. And I think that's something that a lot of times people in the media lose out, and our Monday morning quarterbacks and all that lose out, is that they go like, oh, I can't believe so-and-so did this. I mean, we talked about that, Omar, with the Courtois play, right?
Yeah.
In regards to what was Zidane asking of him right there, and because of that, he felt that he had to stick to that play. But also, CJ, you have to be able to improvise, right? Like if it's not there, like you have to be able to be willing to go against the programming, and your coach won't be upset with you, right? If it's not there, right?
I mean, as long as you're consistent and you make good decisions based on the game, because ultimately I'm the one making the actions. He's not the one doing the actual actions. So it's all up to me. He's encouraging, what he wants to encourage, but ultimately it's me that's the one playing. And as long as I keep the ball out of the back of the net and, it's all about the clean sheet. So as long as I keep a good clean sheet, that's all that matters.
Yeah, those clean sheets, man.
Really
I haven't had a lot of those in a while. Why? How about you, Omar?
No, it's been a while, man. It's been a long time.
Well, did you have a clean sheet in Armenia last year?
I did, yeah. No, I had a few, but it's been a year already. It's crazy.
Man, has it been a year, man? Time is this year.
COVID has just been accelerating everything.
Oh,
I
man.
know.
Are you guys?
Wow.
Are you guys? When do you guys start up the season?
I know the second division starts up on September 12th or September 13th, that weekend, around those days. And
Okay.
I think the under 23 league starts around that same weekend as well.
Wow. What division is the under 23 league in?
It's its own.
Oh, it's its
entity,
own thing.
league.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The B team is the one that plays in the second division.
Oh, gotcha. Man, okay. So you got 19s, 23s, B team, and then first team is the way it goes.
Yeah. So,
okay.
and 3 to 4 goalkeepers on each level. So really competitive.
Man, dude,
It's to the point where the guy on the team above you can take your spot, and the team under you can take your spot. So you always gotta be on point.
Dude, but honestly, I mean, I can't think of. I mean, dude, you're like at goalkeeper camp for a year. I mean, it's a goalkeeper factory, as Omar and I have always talked about, man. It's like I remember when we first heard that, of you going over there and everything like that. It's like, man, a young goalkeeper, I can't think of a better place to go. And just, just in regards to just like this conversation we've had right now, I know obviously, you've been a student of the game prior to that and everything like that, but like, somebody like yourself really flourishes in an environment like that. So it's really awesome to see. Before we head out right here, CJ, and thanks for taking over an hour of your time, because I know it's late there and everything, and you've got training, and you got 17,000 goalkeepers to compete against. What advice do you give to young goalkeepers that are kind of learning how to play a high line and be comfortable up there and defend that area properly? Like if you were 11 or 12 years old right now and you were just learning how to play like that, what would you say to yourself?
I would just say, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to mess up a play. Don't be afraid to play a bit higher. Don't be afraid to be more aggressive, because the more mistakes you make, the more you learn, and the more comfortable you'll be in the long term. Right now, in this current moment, you may not be where you want to be, but the more that you learn and the more that you do, and the more space that you occupy outside of your comfort zone, then the better off you'll be. And I actually said this last week on a podcast that I did last week with Matty Nips. I said by Mignolet a few years ago. He was still on Liverpool. He said that football has a way of giving back to players and giving back to goalkeepers. So you get what you give. If you put in the work, if you're really dedicated to your craft, if you're really passionate on what you do, if you put in extra work, if you really study the game on the field, off the field, if you study your competition, if you study the people below you, if you study the people above you, the top of the top, the Courtois, the Oblaks of the world, the Edersons, if you study them and you're really passionate about your craft, then football will give back in spades, and you'll just take that many more steps forward.
Yeah, I'm glad you included that. That was a quote from Mignolet before Omar started writing that down and putting like on his like channel the next day, like CJ dos Santos, and you're like, oh no, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. I don't want anyone to think that I'm stealing stuff from Mignolet right there. Oh my gosh! All of a sudden you get like this like message from like communications at like Club Bruges and everything like that.
Yeah, it's like his lawyer just comes out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, we're gonna have to find you.
Oh man. Well, Omar, anything you want to add to that before we start wrapping up?
No, I think, again, from the coach's perspective, I think we need to do a better job of just like CJ just said, allowing the goalkeepers to make those mistakes and creating a safe space with our goalkeeping units to maybe have those conversations to say, hey, like, you know, CJ, what is it about your coach that maybe is hindering you or not allowing you to play freely and, you know, play like that sweeper keeper, you know, read the game that we want you to. It's like, well, the coach doesn't want you to, you know, give up the goal, or he doesn't want me to leave the goal vulnerable, or, you know, he doesn't like me playing that aggressive. And then that's when you have a conversation like, hey, look, you know what, give me your coach's number. I just want to call him real quick. And, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think us as coaches, we have way more, we can do more to help our young goalkeepers gain that confidence and to create that environment for them to, we know where the game's going, right? So create that environment to allow them to become that sweeper keeper, or be better with their feet, or to read, you know, the flight patterns or style of play of other teams. I think if we can do that for our goalkeepers, it's going to give them an opportunity to, you know, blame other people other than themselves for the mistakes they make. You know what I mean? I think that's the best part, is that, you know, hey, coach told me that I could do it. It's like, okay, good. But then obviously you get better with more mistakes.
And one thing I want to bring up right here, you know, before we wrap up right here, is for any young goalkeepers out there, is like what we did right now, just breaking down game film with more than just yourself. A lot of times it puts different eyes on it, and people will see things in a different perspective, different point of view, or they might see something that you didn't see because you're so invested in the play because you have a personal connection to it, right? So you know, I think it's really valuable that you get multiple eyes on different scenarios so that you really can really pick and see, you know, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm being too hard on myself right here. You know, maybe I really actually need to focus on this right here. I just know personally for me that always helps me out, because I get very, and Omar, I know you're the same way, and CJ, it seems like you're the same way too, where you're very personally invested and you're very critical of yourself, which is good, but I think we need to have perspective too, right?
Yeah, I have a bad habit of keeping too high of a standard and being somewhat of a perfectionist in my craft, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And the past year, especially this year and last year as well, I was finding myself having some negative thoughts about, you know, not doing things as well as I should be. So there was just a point where I just had to take a step back and, like, you know, just be patient with yourself, and you're going to make mistakes. And there was a point where I would concede a goal and I would just get the ball back in the net. All right, I just need to do this, this, and this. And then I would forget about it right away, instead of just analyzing every little thing and, you know, getting pissed off and kicking the floor, punching the post, whatever I used to do. And now it's just positive mentality and just being really, really not nonchalant about it, but giving myself more patience and the benefit of the doubt, and just to let things go and just to keep pushing forward, basically.
Yeah, don't punch the post, dude. You'll end up with your hands like this, dude. All these scars.
I already have. Look at this finger.
Ooh.
Wait,
That's a solid one, dude. That's a solid one, dude. I got this one right here.
Oh my
it looks
God.
like I'm giving you the finger. I didn't mean to do that.
I know.
I'm trying to show. All right, guys. Remember, guys, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion. CJ, before we go, we got to talk to you about CJ Dos Santos photography. We got to give you a little plug right here. So if anybody's interested in your photography work, or if they want to reach out to you directly, where's the best place to do that?
So, I mean, I'm just going to shout out my regular page and my photography page. Why not? So my regular is where I'm mostly on, is CJ_Santos1. And my photography page, which was kind of more of a hobby because I really enjoy photography ever since I was young. And I got a camera not this past Christmas, but the one before. And I just really enjoy it. And it's really good therapy for myself and kind of disconnect from football, and I just really enjoy it. So it's at CJ_Dos Santos_photography. It's more of a hobby type thing, and just, you know, just to have fun, do some street photography, do some portraits and whatnot.
But dude, you know what? You might be able to. There might be some young kids out there, you know, who might want to connect with you with that, because like they've thought like, oh, I got to focus on football. And then they see someone like yourself who's like got outside interest, and they go like, oh, being a well-rounded human being is what's going to get you to that level, because like
that's the most important thing. So my parents have always, especially my dad has always given me the confidence to, like, if you don't want to play football anymore, I'm going to be proud of you no matter what. If you don't want to do this one day, I'll send an email to whoever I need to send an email to, and then we'll get you back on the next flight. It's okay. And we'll just have to find you something else. We'll just have to find another passion. And it's just about finding something you're really interested in and just practicing on that. So I'm passionate about photography. Granted, I need to do more, but having the whole country shut down isn't really good for street photography. So I've been kind of slacking on that aspect. I'm also passionate about movies, and I like analyzing movies. I love writing as well. I love writing poetry. I went through a phase where I was writing a mini screenplay and a little script for a couple different ideas on some short stories, couple novel ideas. So it's just about finding. Quarantine has made me passionate in many different things, let me tell you. But it's just about not being one-dimensional and just being one part of you. It's always about the different parts of you, and everybody has their genius. And for me, it's not just football. I've always prided myself about being a intellectual type person. Both my parents are teachers, so they've always encouraged that. So it's just about being the best part of myself and not being one-dimensional, and having different layers to yourself and who you are, and just finding your genius and being patient and really trying out what you really like.
Yeah. Omar, if you wanna reach out to you and check out some of your poetry, where's the best place for people to do that?
No, I think I'm gonna leave out the poetry and the creative side to CJ. So,
guys, at ProGK Academy _ Omar, do you want to just give a quick plug on the new system that's starting up in a couple weeks here, so some coaches might know?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna start a coaches area coaches membership as well, where we just essentially all share our sessions. Where I think, PDF form, a lot of us are running 3 weeks. So it's just an opportunity for us to create a community and an opportunity for all of us to share sessions, whether it's, with 1 goalkeeper to 4 goalkeepers, 5 goalkeepers, 6 goalkeepers, small area, big area. I think a lot of us can benefit off that. And I think that's where my heart is. And I think, that's my poetry.
Yeah, and if you're listening to the podcast, that is coming out in a couple days. So that's why I wanted you to do that plug right there. At Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms, guys. I'm back on the stand-up circuit, on the Zoom circuit right now, guys. If you want to know more about my comedy stuff, michaelmagidcomedy.com or at Michael Magid on all social media platforms. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.